Well, happy Friday, everybody. I hope everybody had a good week and looking forward to the start of the, the new week. Uh, I am joined today by one of our group members, Ben. Um, Ben, why
Good
don't you go
afternoon.
ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you?
Well, I'm Benjamin Parker, owner of Becca Holdings LLC Freight Brokerage in South Dakota. I've been in the trucking industry since 1989. Um, 11 and a half years ago, I transitioned from driving to sit behind the desk when I found out that I was pregnant and going to have my first child.
Oh,
Um, so now I sit behind the desk uh, and just broker.
yeah,
So,
that's awesome.
yes. So it's been a, a good career, the trucking industry. It's been a good career. Um, over the years. So we're 34 years into it so far. So
Oh, wow. You
done
got a little
something
more
right.
time in it than me then.
Yeah, I've done something right over 34.
Wow.
Um, but uh, I'm just a one man show. I mean, just I'm the broker, dispatcher, whatever you want to call me. I have my partner, my accountant. She takes care of paying everybody. We're just trying to live the dream, as people put it.
Right, right. Yeah, that dream's a little more difficult, it seems like, here this year, but yeah, I'm hoping
It
more and more people make it through.
Yeah, it is, especially with being on the brokerage side and dealing with carriers. I mean, some carriers just don't understand why you won't use them because they're brand new. Only 10 or 20 days old, and some carriers just get pissed off even they're 3 years old and have a bad CSA score.
Right,
You know,
right.
or they've got a lot of complaints for late pickups, late deliveries. Um, you got to do your due diligence as a broker though, and check on your carriers. I mean.
More and more so this year, for sure.
Yes, the double brokering is out there. I mean, here recently I caught a carrier trying to double broker a load of mine, and I send out a bill of lading with my company name listed as the carrier, slash contract carrier on every load I do. And if it's not turned in, my bill of lading, then the carrier's got to pay a penalty.
Right,
I found that's the best way to prevent double brokering. So,
right.
um,
Yeah, um, one of our group members there, Carrier OK, that is the one feature that I love about them is I can actually click on the address. It has a little search feature, and it'll pull up all the other MCs that are listed at those addresses or at that same address. And 9 times out of 10, when it's a double broker, you'll see anywhere between 3 and 23 different MCs all registered to the same virtual office.
right.
You know, and I think I mentioned, I don't know, in some of the previous videos, there was one that went to a Staples, another one went to a Goodwill, another one went to a church. I mean, it was just I don't know how they get away with it.
I don't understand how they can get away with it either. I mean, it the Google phone has killed carriers because so many carriers use a dispatch service overseas that use a
Yeah,
Google phone. And it makes it hard when you're trying to communicate.
for
So
sure.
they don't ever realize the time difference. Well, not always. They realize the time difference, but there's times when 2 o'clock in the morning I get a call from a carrier's dispatcher who's over in some foreign country, you know, and it gets to be annoying. So
Right. Yeah. I mean, personally, I think that anybody that files for their DOT, MC, their address should be verifiable. Like these virtual offices and things, like I mentioned, I don't think that those should be allowed to be used when they're registering. Uh,
I agree with that 100%. I agree with
Yeah.
that 100%. I mean, a Canadian carrier that registers for a US DOT and MC number, they have to have a US agent in order to do that,
Right.
you know. So that agent is registered here. And that's common practice. I mean, that's happened since the beginning of trucking, pretty much, But these
Yeah.
virtual offices just make it so easy for people to get an MC and start scamming people.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, like I mentioned the other day, I think in the post was, you'll pull them up, it'll show, they've got a relatively new MC, might be 3 months old or something. They've got one truck, one driver, um, no miles, no inspections, no anything. But when they call, you can hear like 30 other people in the background, all trying to book loads.
Yep.
So it's right there. I don't have to do any further checks. I know that what they're doing,
Yes.
and I just politely decline.
Those are the ones I hang up on. Say, sorry, a partner covered it.
Yeah.
And when they call
Well,
back 30 minutes later, well, somebody from your office already called and we're waiting on paperwork. What I end up
Right.
telling them.
And they're not just hurting brokers; they're hurting carriers as well. I mean, because they'll turn around, double broker the load, never pay the carrier, and they'll request quick pay.
Right.
We stopped offering quick pay until they've been on with us for 90 days and done at least 3 loads.
I quit offering quick pay in 2018.
Yeah.
Everybody is net 20 or they can factor at this point. In 2018 was a big surge of bunch of scam double brokering going on. And it's like, nope, I'm not going to sit here and pay you within 72 hours of delivery, keep 3%. 3% is not going to break me.
Right.
Keep that 3%. I'd rather pass that on to the carrier.
Right.
So, and there's factoring companies out there that I don't work with either. I mean, OTR Factoring is the worst. And I haven't worked with them since middle of 2017, but January of 2018, I put it on my carrier packets. I do not work with carriers that use OTR.
And why is that?
I had a carrier do 5 loads for me through OTR, sent OTR their payment. OTR told the carrier I never paid. I had canceled check in hand. So they back charged the carrier, caused him to pretty much go belly up. So
yeah,
if they're going to do that to the carrier, I will not use them.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because I actually have a friend of mine who had gotten signed on. They actually wish that they had gone with one of our other group members there, Operify, and they may eventually end up switching over. But they had invoices from, 6-7 months ago. They didn't catch, right, that hadn't been paid. So they reached out to him. They said, "Hey, we noticed on one of these you never paid us for." "Oh, yeah, it's laying here on my desk." Like they were so nonchalant about it. It was, I thought, man, no way would I ever work with someplace like that.
Yeah, and that's the problem. I mean, it's just when the factoring company doesn't help the carrier doesn't grow. The carrier uses the factoring company for a reason, because a lot of times there are only 1 or 2 trucks.
Right.
So, and they're not home enough to put the checks in the mail.
Right.
And since gone to ACH deposits, probably 95% of our carriers get paid via ACH. So, there's no worry about it anymore.
Right.
But you have carriers out there that'll book a load with you. Say the driver's 10 minutes away, you call 2 hours later to see if the load's loaded, or you get an email from the shipper, "Hey, where's the truck?" And the carrier, "Oh, well, my truck broke down 100 miles away."
Right.
It's like, why'd you book the load and tell me it was 10 miles away? So, and that's happening more and more often, it seems like.
Yeah. Yeah, there's good carriers and bad carriers. There's good brokers and bad brokers out there. I mean,
Yes.
you hang around the groups long enough, you find that out very quickly. You know, um,
Yep.
so
I just
it's
posted this
unfortunate.
week about catching a carrier trying to double broker one of my loads up to Alaska. So,
Mm,
carrier called and begged me for 3 months to take some of my loads up to Alaska. Okay, fine, I'll give you a chance. He quoted it, no problem. 2 days later, it was supposed to be loaded, and he still hadn't loaded it. Well, then I get on the load board because I'm also a carrier still. I still have local trucks that are a run. So I can look at the load board, and sure enough, there's my load. So when I had my accountant call and try and book the load under our carrier MC, they were willing to pay $7,000 more than what I was even charging my customer. So, yeah. Then my carrier that was supposed to haul a load, well, we need quick pay. Can you pay us within 24 hours of delivery? No.
right.
You need the payment terms.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I've been asked for quick pay, and I can't even think of the last time I've had anybody ask me for quick pay. I mean, I'm sure there probably has, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I've gotten to a point where I won't even take my load posting off the load board until I have a driver's name and phone number and talk to the driver
Right.
and confirm that the driver is en route to pick up my load.
Yeah.
So outside of that, I leave it posted. I mean, and just tell people, well, it's dispatch, but hadn't got no confirmation of it yet, signed back yet.
Yeah. I actually had a shipper yesterday. It was for a partial, and apparently he felt like he could load more onto the truck than what what we originally agreed to, you know. And I said, no, I said, it doesn't work that way. And he tried arguing with me, and I just hung up on him. And I called my driver, and he says, well, what do you want me to do? And I said, well, are you able to do it? And he says, well, I'm going to lose out on this other stop. And I said, well, what were you getting paid for that? And he goes, well, we've got another truck that could pick it up. He said, but we're going to pick it up late, and then it's going to cost, we're going to have to cross dock some stuff and finagle everything.
Right.
I said, all right. I said, well, you let me know. I said, we'll figure it out. I said, and I'll just bill them for the difference then if you want to do it. I said, otherwise they can rip it off, take the excess off your truck. It's up to you.
Yeah.
So, and that's what we did. He said, no, he says, I'll take it. And so we sat down this morning and hashed it out, put it out there.
And that happens sometimes. I mean, I've had trucks that I've sent in to pick up one piece of farm equipment, and the farmer will be like, oh, well, I got this other pallet that this guy wanted too. Can you guys take it? Well, now you're taking up space that we didn't figure on being used. So,
right.
Sometimes that happens. Sometimes it doesn't. I mean, and I do a lot of open deck freight. 99.8% of my freight is open deck. Okay. Specialized freight. So, I do a lot with farm equipment and heavy equipment. And to get a farmer to hold a tape measure right and to give you accurate measurements, oh, well, I think it's 11 foot 6 inches. Truck arrive and it can be 12 foot 6 inches. It's like, right. Well, what happened? Oh, well, I didn't measure to the outside of that. I only measured the inside of it. Oh, well.
Right.
So yeah, it happens, where you need more deck space than's anticipated, but you just roll with it. Everything can be agreed upon. It just sometimes you have an upset driver or an upset shipper.
Right.
Yeah. Communication.
I had one. It was actually for one of my customers. One of their other customers had bought a load of furniture from this office building, and he said, "We're just going to run it under my account." And I said, "Okay." And so my driver was 10 minutes away. I was actually on the phone with him when the customer called. They said, "Hold that truck for a minute." I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "He's like 10 minutes away." I said, "He's about ready to pull in." And they said, "Well, the property manager over here is stating that they want all this additional insurance and from the driver." And I said, "Well, what are they talking about?" And it was, I don't know, something like an additional $1 million or something like that. And I said, "Yeah," I said, "that's not going to happen." I said, we're just about to the end of the day. I think we have like 20 minutes left or something like that, 25 minutes. I said, "By the time he gets it, at it," I said, "No," I said, "I'll just stop the truck right now." No, no, don't do that. Don't do that. So he signed something for the property manager, but the driver had to park on the street, and they would just bring everything down and load him on the street, and he couldn't get out of the truck. And so I told him this, and he said, "I don't like it." He said, "But I'll do it." He said, "I'll just sit here." I said, "Okay." Well, it took him 6 hours to load him, because of all this additional back and forth with everything. He had load bars where they were supposed to use those. They didn't strap anything in. And of course, again, he's not allowed to get out of the cab of the truck, and they sealed it. And so he shows up in Phoenix to deliver it. And the lady goes, "Well, half of the stuff is busted up. There's stuff missing." She goes, "I'm not signing this paperwork." And I said, "Ma'am," and I mean, she's chewing my butt. And I said, "Ma'am," I said, "you can sign the paperwork." I said, "I'm going to have him pull ahead about 50 feet. I said, back up to your dock as fast as he can and slam on the brakes." I said, "It's coming off the truck one way or another." "No, no, no, don't do that." So she come running out to him, waving the paperwork at him and everything. And he called me up and he says, "What did you tell her?" And so I told him what I said. And he goes, "I can't do that." And I said, "She don't know that." It was just kind of a funny thing, I guess. But
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it's getting to be a bit, how do I put it? Obnoxious. Getting to be a bit obnoxious with all these carriers, and the drivers won't do a dang thing. I get a flatbed driver that won't even put his own straps on his load. I'm like, seriously? You want me to pay you $50 to strap down 12 sections of pipe? No. And the shippers, they won't do it because it's not their responsibility.
Right.
I mean, I move a lot of equipment in and out of Ritchie Brothers auction yard all over the country and up in Canada. And to get Ritchie Brothers to help a driver do anything, just to guide him on driving a big rock truck on his trailer, is like pulling hind teeth. Nobody wants to help nobody and take responsibility of anything. So,
right.
Back when I started shoot, we'd sit around Friday, Saturdays, back row of the truck stop. We'd have 5 or 6 grills grilling up steaks and 2 coolers of beer and soda, and we'd have a party all weekend long.
Right.
Can't do that now.
No.
You just can't do that now. I mean, and drivers don't communicate with you. You ever notice all these truck accidents that have 10, 20, 30 trucks involved in them? Why? Because they don't have a CB radio no more. Everybody has a cell phone, and they're busy with that versus listening to a CB radio to hear what's going on. I mean, my dad's 80 years old and still driving truck over the road. And he's done it for 54 years now.
Wow.
So, and biggest complaint I get from him is nobody will talk on the CB radio.
Right.
So, and he just runs the Midwest region from Kentucky to Michigan, Ohio, over to Missouri, just in the center of the country, pretty much.
He's probably looking forward to retirement after 54 years, though.
Actually, no. We tried to
No?
get him to retire a couple years back, and he said no.
Huh.
He had to have his knees replaced, and that 8 weeks of rehab and sitting at home drove him crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, he's the type of person that he'll die in a truck, parked somewhere in a truck stop,
Right.
which will be the sad thing, you know. I mean, he's that type of person.
Right. Huh. I don't think I've ever heard of anybody running 54 years like that.
Yeah.
Not in a truck.
Yep. He's still driving truck. He's up in Michigan today, as a matter of fact, delivering auto parts of all things.
Oh, yeah?
Even with the strike going on.
Wow.
Yeah. But he's delivering to Toyota, so you know, Toyota's not affected by the strike.
Right.
So
Yeah, so he's further lower end of the state then.
right.
Yeah.
So,
Does anybody out there in the group or on the YouTube channel have any questions for Ben or I? Anything anybody would like to add? We've got the chat open. I've gotten a couple of hellos there. Did anybody get any new customers this week? That's something I always try to ask.
Yep.
Yeah?
Even though I run about a 91% repeat customer base, I still pound the phones and hit the send button a lot.
Yep.
Every so because one customer today, it might be 3 months before they call me up again, but they call back, and then they become a repeat customer. So every time that they need me, whether it's 3 or 4 months down the road, well, that just builds my book.
Yep.
I don't need 100 loads a day with what I do. I need 5 or 8 good loads a day. As I said, I'm a one-man show. I'm a small brokerage, but I do pretty good. Somewhere between that 2 to 6 range a year, so
Right.
not too bad.
Yep. That's good. Yeah, prospecting is key. You got to stay on it because your fault, their fault, nobody's fault. I've lost customers because the transportation manager that I'd worked with for, 5 or 6 years, I don't know, had a falling out with the company, left. The new person came in. Nope, I'm doing everything my own way. I'm bringing in my own people. That's it.
Yep.
It's just sort of the
That's
nature of the
happened.
beast.
That's happened to me. I mean, I used to move in a electrical trailer, for paper mills. One of my customers serviced all the paper mills, did all the machines and stuff. They did all the electrical updates to them and moved their trailers all over the country for like 6 years straight. Unfortunately, she got pregnant, decided she was going to stay home after the baby was born. They hired a new gal. The new gal decides, well, I'm not using you.
Right.
Like, okay, but you still got 5 trailers on the road that I got trucks dispatched to pick up.
Right.
You got no choice but to use me at this point.
Right.
But as soon as those trailers were picked up and delivered, we'll call you if we ever need you. And
Yeah.
then the biggest complaint that I got from her when she did call me back a couple months back was, well, I could get it done for a third of the price you're asking. I said, be my guest. You wouldn't be calling me if you could get it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I've gotten plenty of those calls, and then it was last minute, at 3:00 on a Friday or something. Oh, well, this other truck's not going to make it. Can you help us out on it? I said, you're
Yep.
going to have to pay my rate, you know. I said, yeah. I said, let me call my drivers. I said, I'm pretty sure I still got one or two left. I said, I'll get somebody in there.
I got a customer that just did that to me this week out of Dallas area. Pulled a big excavator, needed it to go up to Colorado. He called me yesterday afternoon, 4:15. I need a truck by 5 o'clock. I'm not finding a 10 axle truck in 45 minutes.
Right.
You know, just not happening. Told him, I said, I can get you a truck for Tuesday next week, but not today. Not Friday, not Monday, but Tuesday.
Right.
And he was like, no, I got to have this machine delivered by Monday. I was like, whatever. Because, again, these virtual offices allow people to quote stuff because they got a brokerage MC, you know, and they underquote it. I mean, you don't move a 122,000 pound machine 1,100 miles for $6,000.
Right.
You know, you're not even covering permit at that point and fuel. So,
Yeah.
but it happens. So,
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
I just quoted 8 rock trucks out of Florida up to Nebraska for a customer, and he sent me a text this morning. I was outbid by 22 grand by another broker.
Wow.
I was like, seriously? He's like, yep. He's like, and I got to try and save 22 grand. He's like, I understand. You know, it's a savage world when a broker will purposely quote moving, you know, an 80,000 pound machine for less than $4 a mile.
Right.
You know, just because of where it's loading at in Florida. So, I mean, dry freight, van freight pays more than open deck freight coming out of Florida at times, which sucks because I'm an open deck broker.
Right.
So, you know.
Yeah, I picked up one new customer today that I'm hoping is going to be pretty good. The one thing I do when I'm prospecting is I always check their Google reviews.
Right.
At a business. If I see a lot of, and I've brought this up in previous videos, if I see a lot of bad reviews from drivers, excessive times to load, sat here for 7 hours, still don't have a door, stuff like that. And it's pretty consistent. Then I'm probably not going to prospect them.
Yeah.
Because it's not worth the headache.
Yeah. See, like, I run into that issue as well sometimes because open deck, I mean, a lot of times you're waiting on a crane or a big forklift, to load and unload. Well, I just figure, okay, well, the first 2 hours are included in the rate. The second 2 hours for delivery are included in the rate. And I tell my customers, hey, you're billed $3.50 an hour every hour that truck is there after 2 hours.
Yeah.
And they have to approve it in writing, that they're okay with being billed $3.50 an hour. So,
yeah,
there's no reason the truck pulls in under a crane at 10 o'clock in the morning and at 5 o'clock in the evening, he's still sitting there and the crane won't unload him. It's like, the wind's that high? No. Well, what's the problem? Well, the site work's not ready yet for that piece. Well, then you shouldn't have scheduled the truck to pick it up.
Right.
Because you've just spent 8 hours at $3.50 an hour. And that makes them get on the ball and unload the truck real quick within about 10 minutes and set it on the ground. If there's room for the truck to sit there under the crane, there's room for your equipment to sit there under the crane on the ground on blocks. The truck's not a warehouse.
Right. That's true.
It's not a mobile warehouse. It transports.
Yeah.
Point A, point B, done. So
Yeah. Unfortunately, some shippers think that way. It's
yeah,
just,
some do. I mean, I've run it a couple of times. I have done dry freight. I don't tell my customers that I move open deck freight for. Hey, look, they bought a trailer load of pipe fittings. At auction down in Georgia. Well, I don't tell them, well, you got to hire a different broker because that's just stupid on my part. You know.
right.
So, and then when it gets to their site, they're like, we have no place to put it. What's it going to cost to leave it in the trailer for a day? Truck's not a warehouse.
Right.
He's not a warehouse, but you want to leave the trailer there loaded overnight? I'll get with the driver and see what he wants.
Yeah.
95% of the time, they unload the truck and find a bunch of tarps or something from a hardware store to cover their stuff overnight because it's cheaper than paying the truck to sit there.
Right. Yeah. On the kind of the flip side of that, back when I was like in high school, there was a driver. The truck was supposed to have arrived, I think, the following day or something. Well, he got there early and offloaded a bunch of drywall in the freezing rain.
Yeah.
And so we got calls at midnight to come in and get everything inside because it was getting wet. You can't leave all that sheetrock laying out there like that. And
No.
yeah, that was kind of a nightmare. But the boss bought us steaks, in the morning when we got done. So that was, I guess, that made it worth it. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have told my customers in the past, hey, look, when I was starting driving truck in '89, I was in furniture. I was the mobile warehouse. I'd load your stuff up in the furniture trailer in North Carolina. I'd drive you out to Arizona. It'd take me 10 days. You paid for 10 days of storage for nothing. You didn't pay for it. At that point, I was a warehouse. But nowadays, it doesn't take us 10 days to go from North Carolina to Arizona. 3 days, you're there. The only time you're paying for storage is while it's in transit. So,
Yeah. We did have a comment or two here while we were talking before I forget to acknowledge them. Says, hey Tim, thanks for your help with the leads. Helped me in navigating a niche area, finally moving trailer loadouts. Okay, awesome. Still working on produce and holiday season freight. Finalizing a shipper for box truck reefer lanes by next week. These are weekly California to Nevada lanes. Fingers crossed. Yeah, good luck with that. That's awesome.
Yep.
That is awesome. I love hearing about people getting new customers and stuff because everybody says, oh, it's so tough to get customers. It's so tough to get customers, especially right now. And it is. I mean, the prospecting has gotten harder than it once was. But if you're diligent about it, you can still get customers.
Well, yeah. You ever check your spam folder and you get all the spam emails from SEO companies?
Oh, yeah.
I personally, on behalf of this email, see hundreds of issues with your website. I pay a company good money to maintain my website and do my SEO and stuff.
Right.
Don't tell me I got issues,
Right.
But I get dozens of them a day. I mean, the company I currently use, that's how I got them though. Was that they sent me an email repetitively though. They called up, well, who do you use? They came into my office, who do you use? They never stopped prospecting. And when I was ready to redesign my website, I'm like, all right, what can you offer me?
Right.
It's the same thing for a broker. I mean, you never give up. Never give up. Pound the phone, send out those emails. They may go to the people's spam, but one day they may answer you.
Yep.
And need your service. So.
Yep. And follow-ups are just as important, if not more important.
They are. They are. I tell 100% of my customer base, you have my personal cell phone. Call me anytime except for 10 at night till 5 in the morning. 7 hours a day, I do not answer the phone for customers because I'm in bed asleep.
Yeah.
You can reach me at 5:02 in the morning or up till 9:58. But from 10 o'clock till 5 o'clock, I'm done.
Right.
So
Yeah, I've gotten phone calls. I mean, I guess I probably should do that, but if my phone rings at 3 o'clock in the morning, it could be a driver had an issue. I've got friends that are owner operators and stuff, and sometimes they'll run into an issue and they'll call me.
with drivers, my carriers have 24-hour access to me. My customers do not.
Yeah.
My customers do not. My carriers, you got my number. You call me. You text me. You send me a message through WhatsApp. Facebook Messenger. I mean, figure out how to get in touch with me. 24 hours a day, multiple ways. My customers, no. I got a lot of foreign customers overseas, that buy equipment. So I go to the ports a lot, and they take advantage of their time zone difference. 8 hours from here to Vietnam, well, that's a big gap.
Yeah.
They're 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm in bed. Yeah.
Right.
But the auctions run 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
And it takes.
I had one of my biggest customers. It actually took me a year before I moved my first load with them. They were a beef company because I was moving a ton of reefer freight back then, and they were building this new facility, and I actually called and got a hold of the owner, and he said, yeah, we need somebody to help us out with this, and we'll be done by this time. And then I said, okay. So then I kept checking in, and there was delay after delay after delay, and then they finally got up and running, and then nothing. And so I just kept at it, and all of a sudden my phone rang, said, we've got like 12 loads we need you to get picked up today. I'm like, okay. So it was on the phone calling all my drivers that I knew in the area and said, hey, it's on, finally. So and they turned out to be a really good customer there for a long time. I mean, I still work with them, just not to the extent they actually bought up some of their own trucks. So things kind of weaned off a little bit. I more or less just handle like their overflow freight now. So
I have a customer like that. It's a big crane company out west. I mean, I would do 100% of their transport away from their office. If it was over more than 70 miles from their office, I would do 100% of their transport. Now, if it's more than 500 miles from their office, I do 50% of the transport. Because they bought their own trucks, hired their own drivers, bought trailers, custom built trailers to carry certain crane parts on. It's like, well, don't throw them away.
Right.
Because you never know.
Yeah.
Never know. I mean, that they may come back around where, it's just not feasible for them. Insurance is too high, fuel, maintenance, drivers are too hard to find. And they start doing 100% of their transport again. So just stay in touch with them.
Yep.
But I have good majority of my carriers actually send me an email every day with the truck list, where they're at, where they need a load to, when their driver will be empty. And that makes it really easy for me. I might put 2 out of 10 loads on the actual load board every week.
Right.
It's only about 20% of my loads actually hit the load board because I'm matching my freight up with trucks, which is nice. I just did it this week, loading a big cat rock truck out of Las Vegas. Customer called me out western part of the state and up here in South Dakota, and he's like, hey, I bought this rock truck down in Las Vegas. I said, really? Happens to be the exact same size my carrier's hauling down there, just 20 miles from Las Vegas. I was like, well, here's the price. We'll load it on Friday, have it to you by Monday. He's like, well, if you can do that, right before we got on tonight, I was finishing up with them, just hung up when he sent me a message with the link that I was wrapping up stuff. I just sent him pictures of his truck loaded in Vegas and permits and driver information. Said, Tim will see you come Monday. So
that's awesome. Yeah, you kind of touched on something there too. About most of your loads don't ever touch the load board. I think for brokers, this is why I always keep trying to promote, networking and relationships and things, because how much more peace of mind do you have knowing that your load's picked up by one of your regulars, you know what I mean, versus somebody that you book on a load board. You had mentioned about trucks falling off, things like that. Maybe they don't secure it properly. They're not really familiar with that type of freight or something. Are they gonna pick up on time? Are they gonna deliver on time? Are they gonna?
I will pay one of my regular carriers out of pocket if I have to deadhead them to pick up my customer's load if it's that important to me. Right. That I have a qualified carrier on the load or a certain driver on the load.
Yep.
And I've done it many a times. I have a big heavy haul carrier out of southern New Mexico. Dead him 800 miles to pick up some pan scrapers back in June in Colorado to go over to Utah.
Right.
He's like, well, I didn't want to charge you as much, but my deadhead take the big trailer permits. Says, I understand. I ate the first cost of deadhead. Then I talked to my customer. I said, look, $1,500 a deadhead, the right truck and right driver. I said, but the driver. He's hauled into you before. They reimburse me. Because they like having the same guys haul their equipment for them.
Yep.
And when I do get a new customer, and not often, but it happens, you get that new customer that'll test the waters and try your driver, call your driver up direct on their next move. 100% of my regular drivers will say, well, you need to call my broker.
Yeah.
I work for you through him. You need to call Benjamin. He'll discuss rates with you and then talk it over with me. And that's the type of relationship that brokers need to have with carriers and carriers need to have with brokers. I 100% believe that without brokers, the industry is flat. I also 100% believe that without carriers that are qualified, the industry is flat.
Yep.
When I started out, we didn't have open bidding like this. Trucking was regulated. We were just coming into deregulation. We ran in pay zones. You were loaded in zone 1 and you were going to zone 4. You got paid zone 1, 2, 3, and 4's wages. Right. I carried a book, used to call it a bingo card book, registration for each state. So, and we didn't have GPS. We actually used a Rand McNally map.
Right.
So, AM radio at 2:00 in the morning, driving down the road. That was all you could get. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, without good carriers, brokers are dead in the water, and without brokers, carriers are dead in the water. Yeah. We're a necessary evil for both parts of the industry.
Right.
Shipper needs the broker to arrange the truck to take it to their customer. Well, the carrier, the truck driver, needs the broker to have that relationship with the shipper, because they don't have time to sit there, drive the truck, load the freight, make 150, 200 phone calls a day or a week, searching for a direct shipper.
And shippers don't want to keep constantly vetting carriers either.
No.
That's a large part of, once we do secure a customer, that's part of the reason why they use us, because of our carrier relationships, and we do all the things they either can't or don't want to do.
Right. Like,
Um,
I don't know if you as a broker do what I do, but I vet all my customers. I run a full credit check on them. You know, I run them through Insonia credit data, and I run through, DMV and C, and I actually call their references. I require 3 references, 3 trade references for new customers, you know. And if I don't have a real easy feeling about them, I step up my requirements. So, like your first load, you need to pay me via wire transfer or ACH. Truck arrives, I need payment.
right.
You know, uh, I'm not going to sit on a $200,000-300,000 a week on a new customer's freight. And then, oh well, we can't afford to pay you right now. We'll get you in 60 days. Nope.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when you're dispatching 8 or 10 loads and you're paying carriers, anywhere from $7,000 to $15,000 a load, depending on what equipment they're moving, you chew up a lot of money quick.
Yep.
You know,
That's fact.
and for my office, I'm entirely self-funded. I factor 0. So,
Nice.
I don't like to lose money is the point.
Right.
I don't like to lose money. But at the same token, I don't hold on to my carrier's pay. I mean, Truck Stop shows me it's 7 days to pay, but that's only because that's as low as they go, the 7 days.
Right.
Pull up my MC if you got a factoring company, 925-183, check my credit. It's about the best out there. So I know I got better credit than TQL or Landstar or CH Robinson.
Yep. So do we.
I mean, it's just brokers and carriers are necessary evils in the industry. We need that relationship with one another, and we don't need carriers fighting and yelling at brokers or brokers yelling at carriers. But at the same time, there's a lot of double brokering and a lot of scam carriers out there.
Right.
So building that relationship with the broker and with your carrier base is very important.
I agree.
And as a broker, I'm sure you take certain steps to protect you from being double brokered. I mean, every now and again, somebody will try and slide one past you, but they'll catch it, just like I caught my carrier. So,
Yeah, we use the DAT onboard, which is fine to an extent because it links to our system. So once they, finish their setup and everything, and it comes back, and it runs some initial verifications, but I still use like e-carrier check, carrier okay, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It takes me almost 10 times as long to vet a single carrier now versus, just a couple of years ago.
yep.
Because I have to run through all these different checks, verify phone numbers, emails, addresses, and like I said, all of that.
If I'm setting up a new carrier and I have a inclination that they use a dispatch service, I'll flat out ask the dispatch service, how many carriers do you dispatch for?
Right.
And they'll be like, oh, 3. I'll be like, oh, so you're not direct employed for the carrier? Oh, yeah, I work for them. No, that's not. If you dispatch for 3 companies, you're not a direct employee. You're a contractor, So, and that helps prevent, bad carriers being onboarded and double brokering. So, but I use Truck Stop exclusively, because it's just a bigger open deck market if I do need a truck.
True.
So, I mean, I've tried 1, 2, 3 load board. I've tried DAT in the past. I've tried several others, it just, truck stop's always been better,
Right.
for open deck freight.
It makes sense. I move more van and reefer freight than pretty much anything. So DAT's always been kind of my go-to, but when I need to, but yeah, I would agree that ITS is better for your open deck market.
Yes.
For sure.
Yep. I mean, it's just one of those things, each broker needs their own TMS system, and what do you do? I mean, unless you spend a lot of money from McLeod, which
Right.
I can't justify paying that much,
Yeah. What was the other one? I really loved using. What was it, Eljex or something? I loved that one, but that one was pricey as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I have taken up almost an hour of your time, sir.
Not a problem. I appreciate you letting me come on today and ramble on a little bit.
Like I said, I felt it was important to invite members from the group on, like you said early on, kind of get some different perspectives on things other than just my own. People listen to me sort of blabber on about things, so I'm no expert, and it's all about sharing, ideas and networking and everything,
So. And you never know. I mean, what works for you may not work for the next guy, but something I might have said might work for them.
Right.
Or what works for me may not work for you.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, again, which is the difference in the load boards, for example.
Right. For sure.
That doesn't work for me. Truck stop does. If truck stop don't work for you, that does.
Right.
But broker carrier relationships is a very important thing for carriers to realize that they need to have a solid relationship with multiple brokers. So,
yeah.
And
I think that the more we understand about each other, which I think is probably easier for you because you were a driver, right?
Yeah. And I still have 6 trucks on the road. I still have 6 local trucks.
Oh.
So I still jump in behind the wheel of the truck. I just made a delivery actually Monday. Had to run out to Wyoming and pick up a load and deliver it Monday. Which Wyoming's just 6 hours away at the border, but and then come back. So right. I mean, but it's just the only way I actually know what the drivers are dealing with is to continue to be a driver.
Right.
To see it. When I have one of my carriers delivering within a 50-mile radius of my office, I go out and I meet each driver, take them to lunch. If it's lunchtime, take them to dinner. If it's dinner time, if they're staying the night, hey, let's go to the steakhouse, have a steak and a cold beer. It's, I got to know how they're treated. So, but there's a lot of times I'll dispatch a driver to pick up a truck or a piece of equipment or something. After they got it loaded and they're halfway in transit, I'll send a revised rate sheet to their dispatch, to their office with an extra $25 or $50 dinner for driver, and the dispatch will be like, well, why? Because the driver told me on the phone that he spent 3.5 hours chaining this piece of equipment down and getting it loaded, and he didn't ask for any detention pay because he's the one that took longer because he wasn't sure about how he was loading it. Says, I'd rather pay the guy $50, buy him dinner,
Yep.
Have him take an extra hour and a half to secure it properly and get it loaded properly.
Yeah.
It's worth $50 to me. The guy wants to spend his own time, and I'm going to reward him for it. He's doing me a justice. He's doing me justice by when he rolls up to my customer sees it's secured properly. The driver knows exactly what he's doing. That means a lot to to the customer,
Right.
you know. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's a reflection on you for
it
sure.
is. And that builds the relationship, which is why I run like a 91% repeat customer.
Right.
So yeah.
Well, I suppose we'll probably wrap it up. We
Yep.
should do it again sometime.
Just
Yep.
come in, so probably need to answer them.
Okay. Yeah. Any other time you want to jump on, let me know. And if anybody else, from the group, or if you're on the channel, join the group. We're more than happy to have you on. So,
Or if they got questions, just let me know.
for
We'll
sure.
answer your questions. So
Yeah. But have a great weekend, sir.
all right,
Everybody
you
out
too.
there. All right. We'll talk to you.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.